So I think Amano giving him the means to seal away Naruto and in some fashion, shape or form, put him on a conflict course with Boruto Uzumaki and sending him down the path where he has to, do things his way, so to speak, even if it is not in alignment with what Boruto Uzumaki and the rest of the Uzumaki household and even Konoha want. The thing is, with Kawaki receiving karma again, you have to think, right? The karma does allow the vessels to actually make use of the Otsutsuki that the karma belonged to, or the Otsutsuki that gave them the karma. It allows them to access their abilities, right? Maybe even Kawaki sends Naruto away to actually get some, help. Or it's kind of similar to my whole Daikokuten theory in a sense. I don't want to necessarily bring that back just yet, but right? What if by receiving karma again, Kawaki somehow at some point accesses Ishiki's ability to use Daikokuten and stores or seals away Naruto in the dimension that is void of time. So before anything else, I am taking my W on the theory of Kawaki sealing Naruto in the dimension without time, same dimension that Daikokuten and Sukune Kona are linked to. For those of you that were here watching my my live reaction stream, a Shinjutsu that allows access to a dimension where time is frozen. What am I telling you? What am I telling you? Listen. Yes, sir. Yo, what did I say? Shout out to everyone that came up for chapter 78. But yo, I am taking the W. No one's going to top me down. Andrew, if you're watching this, I hope you saw. I put in the evidence, and I'm sure I spoke more about it when it came on to the live streams I've done over the years. But that's just me. Now, back to our regular scheduled programming. Welcome everyone, Sanjay Uchiha here. Welcome back to the channel. Of course, we'll be talking about Boruto Manga Chapter 78 in a more concise fashion for your viewing pleasure. Of course, we did do a live reaction to the chapter yesterday or last night, so that's up on the channel for you guys who actually want to see my initial raw reactions and thoughts. But here we are. Of course, I'm Sanjay Uchiha, the Uchiha that Itachi forgot that went to YouTube. So I hope you guys are having an awesome night or whenever you're listening to this. But let's get into it. Boruto Manga Chapter 78, Super Idiot. Honestly, an awesome chapter to say the least. I think one of the main reasons coming out of this you'd feel this is an awesome chapter is the continued sense of progression that the story at this point continues to have, because of course last chapter we had Kawaki seal away Naruto Uzumaki, which that's been something that's been hinted at or basically stated since the beginning of this story. And of course in this chapter we have Boruto finally getting the scar that we see he also had in Boruto Chapter 1 or Episode 1. So it's that continued sense of progression, I would say, that this chapter continues from last chapter, and it feels like we're getting closer and closer to that time skip that a lot of persons actually want to see. But let's kind of dissect it and appreciate or just analyze the nuance of this chapter, because there are still some issues with this chapter I feel persons are going to have. So chapter 78, as expected, deals with the characters and their initial reaction to knowing or finding out that Kawaki has sealed away Naruto Uzumaki and his wife, Hinata Hyuga. Well, does she call herself Hinata Uzumaki? I would imagine. But anyway, the point is the initial reaction to Kawaki and his actions here. And we see characters such as Ada breaking down and revealing to the other characters that who didn't know that Kawaki actually killed Boruto before. And this is in response to characters wondering why Kawaki did what he did, etc. And of course Ada, being on their side for now, analyzes the conversation and says, yo, this was definitely Kawaki's doing, and based on the conversation he's probably planning to kill Boruto again. And this sets things in motion for this chapter when it comes on to characters like Sarada and Mitsuki and them finding out the truth and things continuing to head into the chaotic route when it comes on to the the dynamic between the quote-unquote new Team 7. Now, in this chapter, we see Sarada, who she doesn't seem angry, she seems concerned, but she heads out to actually confront Boruto, who's already headed out to actually confront Kawaki. And I think one thing this chapter does is continue that subtle build-up of the self-frustration and the foundation of what Sarada and Mitsuki will be when it comes on to the time skip. Because throughout this chapter, between Sarada coming face to face with Kawaki, being partially responsible, well, how the person would say, like, fully responsible for Boruto getting his scar, and even the way Mitsuki is drawn in this chapter, you can see the rage, the anger building with him in this chapter. This chapter kind of adds to that subtle progression of Sarada and Mitsuki building up to get some payoff, or just the author doing something with them when it comes down to the story. It's adding to that foundation of, yeah, we're building to it, we're building to it, we're building to it, and we're gonna reach a breaking point at some point where Sarada and Mitsuki are going to have to get a lot more spotlight compared to what they got when it came on to the fight against Boro. So I will applaud this chapter for actually doing that. Continuing in the chapter though, we do see Boruto on the Hokage monument, which Kawaki predicted that he'd go that way, and I think it's kind of like a subtle callback or reference to this is their, how should I put it, this is their valley of the end, similar to how in the original Naruto series, where Naruto and Sasuke fought in the Valley of the End, and towards the ending of the series in their final fight, Naruto and Sasuke, like, they had this unspoken understanding that they should go back to the Valley of the End for their final fight. So it kind of feels like them being on the Hokage monument feels like a subtle callback to say, oh, this is our version of the Valley of the End. So I thought that was kind of interesting to note, or it just might be my wild out there theory, expectation, whatever. But of course we see the fight between Boruto and Kawaki start here, and much like true to Kawaki's character at this point, he has no time to fully delve into the explanation of why. It's just the bare minimum and let's get into it. And I really like that because it doesn't kill the pacing of the chapter with a lot of dialogue that's potentially unnecessary or information that we already know, because he already explained in full detail to Naruto why he's doing what he's doing. So it would have killed the pacing with this chapter if we went back into that again. So I'll give that to this chapter. So of course we do see Kawaki pulling out Karma, Daikokuten, Sukune Kona going after Boruto pulling out the Karma as well, Rasengan, and Kawaki has a slight edge, but for the most part the fight, I would say, could have gone anyway at this point in time, which is when at some point eventually Sarada herself also comes into the fray. And I think this is the point. This section of the chapter is what persons are going to be criticizing a lot, because Kawaki, the characters at this point are still trying to get through to Kawaki, which in my opinion it doesn't make sense, because it's not like Kawaki is out of his mind. He's very calm in terms of his resolve, in terms of what he believes he has to do, so it doesn't really make sense. But at this point in the chapter we have Sarada coming in to help Boruto, and she's how should I put it, she's not necessarily helping out as much as we'd want her to. She gets into the fight, she gets between Kawaki and Boruto, and of course Kawaki says, yo, get out of here if you don't want to die. She feels that as a person that's aiming to be Hokage at this point, she can't actually leave. There's even more reason that she has to stay and protect Boruto and everything. And I think the criticism I had with this scene was the fact that she came into this situation without activating her Sharingan. So one of the examples I put out in the live reaction to the chapter was that, like, imagine you're watching Dragon Ball and Goku's fighting somebody as Super Saiyan Blue, and Vegeta comes in and he's just in his normal state. You would expect him to transform as well, right? Yeah, so it's kind of like that. I expect, even though Sarada still wouldn't have been able to like beat Kawaki, I expect her to activate her Sharingan. So I found that to be an odd choice. But after like reanalyzing and rereading the chapter, based on how it's drawn in terms of the body language, it becomes a 50-50 deal for me. And I think when you analyze it, you can see based on how Sarada is drawn, she still has this sense of hesitation, you know. She still has this, she's not fully committed to the idea that Kawaki is going to do what he's going to do. So that's how it results in, you know, her hesitating and Boruto having to come back in and defend her, resulting in Boruto's scar. And I know some person kind of felt like it was a bit anticlimactic, you know. They were expecting something more like crazier when it comes on to Boruto getting a scar, you know, maybe something along the lines of, you know, Momoshiki and Sasuke coming in and have to give him the scar or something. But it is what it is. It's a 50-50 scenario, and I wouldn't really let this moment take away fully from the chapter compared to my initial, you know, reaction, my initial impressions to it, because, you know, on reanalyzing it. So I would definitely say that. Of course, after this point, the, you know, other characters like Konohamaru, Shikamaru, Mitsuki come in to actually confront Kawaki as well, and we find out that Shadow Possession actually prevents, you know, Sukuna Ikona from actually working, which is interesting to note. Of course, Mitsuki kind of immobilizes, you know, has one of Kawaki's hand wrapped up so he can't actually use his karma to absorb it. And, you know, the whole theme of, you know, the whole vibe of Kawaki just saying things on the surface level, there's no need to repeat my motivations to these people, continues. Very incorrect, if I do say so myself. And Shikamaru at one point does say like, yo, you're trying to protect Konoha and everything, but no, you're really just causing chaos, fam. And it's at this point Sasuke actually comes in as well from wherever he was to say, yo, if you do anything, this is it, fam. I'm just gonna kill you if you resist. And it's at this point that the chapter is kind of flipped on its head, where Momoshiki somehow, even though Boruto isn't low on chakra or he didn't lose consciousness, he's able to actually take over Boruto's body, and he saves Kawaki by getting rid of the shadow possession via karma. And it's at this point he's saying to Kawaki like, yo, you want to kill me, right? Like, so take advantage of this opportunity. And it's at this point the characters and us, the audience, are asking like, why would Momoshiki do that? Like, it's so odd, honestly. But and Sasuke is questioning the same thing. And by the end of the chapter, we do see Momoshiki confront Boruto and say, yo, you've lost one of your eyes. The time for you to actually lose everything, it's begun and it can't be stopped. So that's where we end the chapter. And honestly, it's a very interesting chapter, because even though we have that sense of progression, we have a million more questions to ask. The story continues to progress, but at the same time, it's getting so much more chaotic as Kawaki makes his escape from the scene. Now we have Team Konoha, we have Kawaki on one side. We don't know what Ada and Damon are going to do just yet. We still have Code in the background, and of course we have Momoshiki and whatever he's scheming. So there's so many little factions or sub-factions when it comes on to the story right now, where the engagement from us, the audience, is at an all-time high, honestly. And I did say that, yo, this chapter is this true start of the Boruto story, this true spiritual chapter 1, which is interesting because this is essentially the first chapter without Naruto being like a thing in the story for the most part. You know, he's no longer, as Boruto would have said in chapter 1, you know, this isn't the story of the Hokage. I have a kid that wants to become Hokage. This is my story, but my dad was a part of my story for a bit before it became my story. So yeah, but all in all, I thought it was a good chapter. As I said, the sense of progression and, you know, getting closer and closer to the time skip, but at the same time, the nuance and appreciation I think we can get when it comes on to them continuing to subtly build things with Sarada and Mitsuki, because they haven't had the best shine when it comes on to the Boruto manga. But at the same time, I would say that this chapter is just another addition to that, you know, building towards that breaking point of Sarada and Mitsuki getting that spotlight, that action in the manga that they need. Because between Sarada messing up here and Of course, her kind of reflecting on the whole situation with Boruto dying and coming back and not knowing is definitely going to add to that frustration, similar to what motivated the characters in part 1 Naruto after the Sasuke retrieval to train and get stronger. And Mitsuki, of course, the way he's drawn in this chapter, you can see the rage on his face, and that's going to tie into the flash forward scene that we saw. It's going to motivate these characters to try it that much harder. One thing I will also compliment the chapter on is the contrast, or just the resolve, or I guess the development in not Mitsuki but Kawaki's mindset right now, that pushes that whole theme of, you know, the age of shinobi is over, tradition versus, you know, new age, etc, etc, where he was talking to Sarada and it's like, yo, you shinobi are really destined to die early. And that just really, like, it just shouted to me like, yo, yes, we're at the point where Kawaki has fully committed to the idea that, yo, the shinobi way doesn't make sense, and we're doing something that's beyond shinobi, that's more modern, you know. So that was interesting, you know. Again, another subtle callback or tie-in to that sense of progression, and tying things to the future scene that we have with Boruto and Kawaki there. You know, the age of shinobi is over, so that was good as well. And not to mention the whole mystery when it comes on to Momoshiki, who, you know, continues to be that, I guess, wild card in all of this, because whew, he's really just adding to the chaos, honestly speaking. So all in all, I thought it was a good chapter, to say the least. I'm expecting them to continue this momentum with chapter 79, which I think should be the final chapter of volume 20 that we're on. So whew, awesome chapter. I will continue to say though, like, apart from the 50-50 thing with Sarada, in terms of the choreography of the fight that we got with Boruto and Kawaki, I think, you know, Ikemoto still has room to improve in terms of just the clarity of it sometimes, in terms of some fights. So I will probably have that against the chapter, but apart from that, awesome content, honestly speaking. And I can't wait till the anime gets to this point and see how the main the anime owners will react to it. So yeah, but anyway, I think I've rambled on long enough. Between the reaction and this video, I think I've covered everything I need to at least initially cover when it comes on to this chapter. So yeah, Sarada Uchiha, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, let's start the discussion, and I'll see you in the next Boruto video.